My name is Michael Swain. I am the Executive Director of Freedom of Religion South Africa 4SA, and I'm speaking today about a very important issue that we're all facing at the moment. And this issue is the response that we need to make, really as a matter of urgency, to a report that has been issued by the CRL Rights Commission on the regulation of religion. To give you a little bit of background about this particular report, you may well be aware of some of the reports in the media of the pastors who've forced their congregations to eat snakes and drink petrol and eat grass and all sorts of crazy things. These reports persuaded the CRL Rights Commission to look into what they saw as abuses of religious people, basically, or people claiming to be religious, and how they were dealing with their congregations. There were also some commercial abuses. They took a very unusual route to do this. They subpoenaed some 85 religious leaders from across the country, called them to meetings, and as a result of this, they identified certain areas which they said are areas of concern. And these are very simply as follows. One is people were suffering actual harm at the hands of some of these religious practitioners, so-called pastors. They also identified areas where there was financial abuse, where people were taking money under false pretexts, all sorts of things like selling holy water for ridiculous sums of money that claimed to cure and so on. And then, of course, you also had certain areas where there was non-compliance, where they were persuaded that there wasn't sufficient accountability, transfer of leadership, issues like that. So these are all legitimate concerns, and 4SA obviously would support them in the bona fide approach to identifying some of these issues. But where our concerns have highlighted have been in their way of recommending how they should deal with these abuses. They propose that there should be state regulation of religion. Now, if you know anything about the history of the state and the religious sector and how they've related in this country, there's always been very much a hands-off approach. In other words, religion has been left to religion, especially in terms of doctrine, and any intervention of the state has been more in terms of judicial procedures and that type of thing. It's been very minimalistic, in other words, and that's what it should be, because we have a constitutional right in this nation to freedom of religion. We're entitled to believe, to think, to express, to associate as we see fit so that we can live out our faith. And we are a multi-faith, diverse nation. That's why it's so important that we be protected. So when these recommendations came out, obviously there is now a very serious concern, because the process that they adopted was obviously a very tiny, slim minority of the religious sector was actually canvassed in the first place. And the vast majority of people are, of course, perfectly law-abiding. We have many, many denominations and other religions that run their affairs perfectly, legally, perfectly validly. But what they have decided to propose is that religion, from top to bottom, should be regulated. They're proposing that every religious practitioner should be licensed. Every place of worship should be licensed. And they want to do this by creating umbrella structures where you all have to join some umbrella structure or another, and you have to be a bona fide religion. Now, there are a lot of serious issues that immediately arise. The first is that there's no obligation in this country. We have freedom of association. You don't have to join any particular organization or association. There certainly should be no vetting of doctrine to say whether or not you are a bona fide religious group or not. That's not freedom of religion. In fact, the Constitutional Court has decided already that even if your belief is bizarre or irrational or illogical, that doesn't make it invalid. So we are concerned, and what we are basically proposing is that first and foremost, we should simply say to the CRL Rights Commission, in the cases where there's actual harm, we have laws, plenty of laws that are there, that are in place, that can deal with every single situation that they identified. When it comes to financial abuses, again, we have SARS, we have financial regulations that have to be abided by. So those are simply, in some cases, either being circumvented or simply not enforced. So what we're seeing is the problem is non-application of the law, non-enforcement of the law. And in other cases where there has been perhaps non-compliance, in some instances it's a question of education. And the CRL Rights Commission is actually probably very well placed to provide the type of resources and constitutions, etc., that people need to know so that they can be properly compliant. What we obviously do not need is to have the state regulating religion, because as soon as the state regulates religion, effectively the state controls religion. So what we're basically saying is this: we recommend and we encourage all churches, all denominations, all faith groups to respond to the CRL Rights Commission, and you can do so with a pro forma submission that is available on the 4SA website, which is www.forsa.org.za, and you can download a pro forma submission where you can actually then send an objection which has been well researched, well argued, well structured to the CRL Rights Commission. We also have a petition on the 4SA website that you can sign up. It's shareable, but we need to make our voices heard. This is not a moment in our history where we can afford to simply sit by and hope for the best. We obviously do hope for the best. We hope that the recommendations that we're making, the alternatives that we're suggesting, will be well received, and that we will be able to come up with alternative solutions, like, for example, a broad-based consultation that will result in possibly a code of ethics that everybody will subscribe to, so that we as the religious community can truly self-regulate. But we cannot afford to allow the state to effectively capture the religious section. So we want to encourage you, please get involved. This is your moment to stand up. Please share this video. Please get onto our website. You can look at our Facebook page as well, Freedom of Religion SA, and stay informed and stay up to date and do your bit. Thank you very much.